So before we get started, please turn off your cell phone or switch it to silent mode. Thank you. So according to latest statistics, there are over 20,000 children requiring protection in South Korea. Most of these children were placed into situation as a result of child abuse, divorce, or teen pregnancy. Moreover, the number has been increasing for several years, so the matter of institutionalized children has become quite a serious issue. Today, Courtney Snyder is going to talk about on the fringe of society, institutionalized children in Korea. She is a children's ministry director at Mdream Orphanage. She will bring you into the world of institutionalized children with her personal experience and suggestions. So, without any other thought, please welcome Courtney with a loud of applause.
Good afternoon. There we go, that's better. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me come. I'd like to introduce myself first. Let's see if I can flip to the next slide here. There we go. I am from the United States originally. I've actually been living in Gwangju for 3 years now. I'm currently studying psychology, and while I was in the United States, I actually worked in Washington, D.C. With children from abusive families and just children that needed a lot of care as well. When I came to Korea, I wanted to do the same thing, and so I found Mdream Orphanage, or Mdream, and started volunteering there. Also in 2010, I started a small nonprofit in the United States whose goal was to work with children around the world in similar situations, and it's actually a partner organization with Mdream now. And I have a 4-year-old son. He is 4 American age and 6 Korean age. He speaks Korean better than I do. I get a little bit embarrassed about that, but he really enjoys being here. And last year, Thanksgiving, I made a traditional American Thanksgiving and had turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce. He cried and wanted Kim, and so you can tell he really, really enjoys Korea. So today, I wanted to talk a little bit about my experiences at Mdream. When I first came, I was working just as a volunteer there, and most Korean children get to go to Hagwons after school, and English is really emphasized, and they get to learn English. But at the orphanage, at the Yugwon, a lot of the children do not get this opportunity, and the younger you are when you learn the language, like my son's case, the easier it is for you to speak. And so I wanted to give the younger children an opportunity to learn English from a young age. And they enjoy it. When we go over there, they'll go, hello, hello, or telling me their shirt, blue, blue. They really get a kick out of that. So I started that. Also, we started a cupcake business with some of the girls, Mdream Cupcakes. And the goal of that project is to give the girls something that they can do and create and be proud of. And I really enjoy doing that with girls. I also work with another volunteer teaching a character building class for the elementary schoolers and represent Mdream to the foreign community. I love talking about Mdream. And also doing different fundraising. So I'll go through a few pictures here. Some of the kids. Let's see. There's a couple of little ones taking a nap. They were in the English program when I first started. They're a lot older now. This is actually a picture of the English program. We're going through some different English flashcards here. This is our character building class. That's actually my son with some of the kids. And they're all watching a movie. I don't remember what it was, but they really enjoyed it. And we sell our cupcakes sometimes at the first alleyway downtown. We also sometimes sell them at different events. We sold at GIC Day, and this was actually a basketball tournament, and we were invited to come and sell cupcakes there as well. Let's see. These are some of the kids watching the cupcakes. I love making them there. It's really cute to see them peek and look in the oven, watch them rise. Those are some of the cupcakes. And I want to talk about the kids that are actually in the institution. They come for a lot of different reasons. Some kids are there because of abuse. They're taken out of homes where they suffer physical or sexual abuse. Also, a lot of kids end up in homes because their parents divorced. In Korea, it's very, very difficult if you're a single parent to take care of your child. And so I actually know quite a few children who've ended up in an institution because of divorce. Sometimes it's financial problems. It's difficult for parents to take care of the children. A certain percentage of them are actually orphaned. There are no living parents. And then a lot of the kids come from unwed mothers. So there's just a whole lot of different reasons that kids end up there. Okay, so I have two different charts to show you. The first one starts at 2011, goes through 2009. So one of the sheet goes through about the past 10 years or so. And you can see the purple are children that are born to teenage moms or unmarried mothers. And then there's a small percentage of runaways. The light blue are kids that ended up in orphanages because of poverty or abuse. And let's go to the next one. There we go. Okay. This is more recent. In 2013, there were a total of 6,020 children that year that ended up in an institution. 285 of them were abandoned. And this doesn't mean that they were taken to the institution. This means they were just left, sometimes at a police station, a sidewalk. That's happened even in Gwangju for many different reasons. Typically, the way a child enters an orphanage or an institution, they go to the local GIC office, and then they assess them and choose a home for them from there. There are about 1,534 children, unwed parents, and then you can see poverty, unemployment, and then due to parent death, so orphans or divorce, 2,213. Another problem in Korea is very often unwed moms are forced to give up their children. So even if they want to take care of them, due to cultural pressures or family pressures, they're actually not permitted to keep the children. Korean government statistics say that out of 100 pregnancies, 96% of them are aborted, and of the 4 remaining, 3 of them, eventually the child ends up in an institution, and only 1 actually gets to stay with their family. I've actually been doing a lot of research and reading different newspaper articles in Korea, some different research studies, and there have been people who've struggled to the point that by keeping their child, families cut off contact, changed phone numbers, and refused to give support. Okay, so this chart goes into what happens to the children once they're actually institutionalized. And let me pull up, see a little bit better here. All right, so the purple represents inter-country adoption. So these children end up being adopted to countries such as the USA or Europe. The green represents children who are adopted in Korea. The red represents children who end up in foster care. And then the blue, children who end up in institutions. And that is actually 2001 through 2009. And then this goes up through the current year. And you'll notice this row right down here has the domestic adoption, and then the bottom row is overseas. So last year, it was 922 kids total were adopted. 686 were adopted within Korea, and 236 were adopted overseas. And you'll actually notice over here the numbers changed. It went from about 3,200 being adopted in 2006 down to 900 since 2006. And I'll get into the reasons behind that a little bit later. You'll also notice in 2006 that there were more children adopted internationally, about 58.8%, and less in Korea, 41.2%. But that has actually changed. This past year it was about 75% within Korea and about 25% out of Korea. All right. So talk a little bit about the kids. A lot of people ask if the kids are cared for. And it's a complicated question because sometimes, and when we picture orphan, we picture a child in an orphanage like you see in the movies. You know, they don't have clothes, they don't have food. That is not the case. The children institutions in Korea have clothing. It's provided for them. They are fed, they are educated, and they have their health care taken care of. Physically, they are very much taken care of. They do get to go to school, but extras are not provided by the government. So if a child wants to go to a hagwon, or if a child wants to participate in another activity, they actually, the institution themselves has to provide that. Sometimes it's through sponsors, sometimes it's through donors. Mdream actually has a program where we have people come and sponsor kids to go to hagwons and such. The problem is not physical needs, the problem is actually emotional needs. It is impossible for an emo, or an auntie as we call them, who takes care of an entire apartment full of kids to be mom. They cannot be there in the same way a mom could be. And so we're actually trying to change that. Where I work, we would like to, instead of having one adult with a whole lot of kids, try to change that ratio so that there's one adult to 5 kids. And just give them the chance to have someone who can sit there and help with the homework and give them the attention that they need each day. Some of the problems that happen are the kids have a difficult time attaching to people. When a baby is born, they bond with their mom very early on. And when a child ends up in an institution, they're surrounded by many different adults. And they really struggle forming a safe bond with anyone. You see this exhibited in several different ways. Some children will not let anyone in. They just create a brick wall, and they don't want to have anything to do with anyone. Others, some of the little ones, just want to attach themselves to anybody. They just want that. Additionally, children who grow up in institutions typically have lower IQs. And part of this is because they don't get that one-on-one attention from adults like children need. There was a study done, actually, that compared children in foster care and children in institutions. On average, the children in institutions had an IQ of 73. Children in foster care, where they got some more attention, 81. Children in biological families, with their families, over 100. And studies have been done that actually show by adopting children, you can actually change that. A child may be born into an institution, may have an IQ of 73, but they can actually recover if they're adopted and taken into a family. Additionally, a lot of kids end up in more trouble with the law than a normal child would be. They're a lot more likely to end up homeless and a lot more likely to abuse substances. I actually have personal experience. There was a child that was at an orphanage, ended up, for a whole lot of complicated reasons, being sent away. And I actually took him into my home about 2 years ago, and he had a lot of problems. He couldn't accept love. As much as I loved him, he couldn't accept. He stole from me. He had severe problems with cutting, and he was a very, very heavy smoker, and he just told me that smoking was his family. He'd never had a chance to have a real family, never had a chance to really experience what it meant to be loved unconditionally. That was really hard for him. And he was 16, and yeah. Also, there's a difference between kids who are orphaned and kids who have families. Some of the kids have no parents at all. Some of the kids have parents that are still alive, but they do not see them. I know some children, parents will come at Chuseok and take them once a year and then bring them back. There are some children there that are there because the parents can't afford to financially take care of them. And the parents come every weekend, they take them out, they try to spend time with them, and it's really neat to see. But the kids whose parents bring them and then leave have a harder time than the kids who are orphans. Because the children who are orphans can work through a certain grief and understand that nothing can be done about it. Like, it's the lot that they were handed in life. But the children who have families often wonder why were they left. Why is their mom off? Why is their dad off? And that's especially the case in the true of divorce, because often a child will be left at the institution. The parents will go off and remarry and have more children. And so then the child actually has step-siblings who live at home. I know one girl, she's in middle school, and she has a situation like that. She's at the institution, her older sister's at home. She sees her family once a year, and she cannot understand why her sister gets to be home and she has to be at the institution. Also, the kids all go through a grieving process. When a child comes to an institution, when they're young, if they're in preschool, they're not really aware that they don't have parents. Sometimes if they come from an abusive family, they actually feel a certain sense of relief of being away from that abuse. So preschool, they're pretty unaware. They just have a vague feeling that something isn't quite right. By the time they hit elementary school, though, they know that something is different. They go to school and their friends have families, their friends have parents. They have the nice packed lunches. I actually read a study that was done in Korea by some Korean psychologists. They did a qualitative research study and interviewed children at different institutions around Korea. And one little girl said the hardest time for her was the days that it rained, because she would go to school and when they would leave, parents would be lined up with umbrellas, waiting for their kids. But there was nobody with an umbrella for her. So in elementary school, they're really aware that they're different, and they start to have fantasies. They start to hope that parents will return, parents will come back to take care of them. But then by middle school, they start to realize that this reality is not going to happen, and they start to close themselves off. The period between high school or middle school and high school, the kids tend to build a wall, and after that they cannot form a good attachment or a really in-depth relationship with anyone. It's a protective mechanism. They kind of retreat like a turtle into their shells. And kids deal with being at an institution different ways. There was the one girl that I mentioned, and another high school boy I know. He's very stoic. He won't let anybody in. Nothing bothers him. He's almost like a robot, to be honest. There's another boy, and he and his use a lot of humor. They make jokes. They'll literally point at each other and call each other orphans and like, well, you have parents, I don't have parents, and try to make it funny, just so that it doesn't bother them. Let's see. So what I wanted to talk about is what can be done about this. We're going to look a little bit at a few adoption statistics first. There was a law change I'm going to talk about in a minute, but let's see. From 2001 to about 2009, you can look at the chart. You can see domestically in 2001 there were about 1,700 kids adopted, and in 2009 about 1,300 in Korea. Internationally, in 2001 it was 2,436, and then in 2009 it was about 1,100. And all that changed. If you'll notice, the numbers are pretty high in 2006 and 2007. Last year, they dropped. Domestically, 686 kids were adopted in Korea and 236 in America. And that means hundreds of kids aren't getting homes. That means out of 6,000 kids that ended up institutionalized last year, less than 25% of them found a home. And there's a problem because the Korean government, which is, the Korean government is attempting to stop international adoption and encourage domestic adoption. And I think that's awesome. I think it would be really, really good for these kids to have Korean families and to stay in Korea. I absolutely agree that it is preferable for a child to end up with a Korean family as opposed to a family from another culture. But it's not happening. And that's a problem. The law changed recently, and now only 2/3 the number of children adopted domestically is allowed to be adopted internationally. So if 600 children are adopted in Korea, only 400 are allowed to be adopted internationally. It doesn't matter if there's families who want them, and it doesn't matter if there's children to be adopted, it can't happen. Domestic adoption in Korea is not popular for several reasons. One, the birth rate in Korea has been dropping, and so if families don't want to have their own kids, they really don't want to adopt. Also, there's a stigma against adoption. Family is really important in Korea, and for that reason, a lot of times people feel a certain sense of shame when they've adopted a child and the child is not a blood relative. So up to 98%, it's an estimation, but up to 98% of children are entered as biological children on the family register. Only 2% are actually entered as adopted. And because of this, it discourages other Korean families from adopting. Some families have even pretended that the child is the result of an affair, because that is preferable than admitting that there's not a blood tie. And there was a survey done by the Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs, and they polled people to learn about attitudes about adoption. And 32% of the respondents said that they did not want to adopt children because they felt like it would be difficult for them to love them the same way that they could love their biological children. About 30% cited the family system, the blood ties, and felt like that would not be good. And financial burden about 12%, and then prejudice against adoption about 11%. There was a law that changed in 2011, and they did this to encourage adoption within Korea, and actually to encourage women to keep their children instead of institutionalizing them. The new law says that birth mothers have 7 days after giving up their child to change their mind. And sometimes that could be useful in situations where a woman was forced to give up her child and didn't want to. It gives a little bit of time there. Adult adoptees will have the right to access their adoption records. And the government's working towards making more, or creating more support for single moms and encouraging them to parent their children rather than place them up for adoption. And also, they're trying to encourage domestic adoption and put an emphasis on that. The law's intention was very good, but there's some unexpected side effects to that law. Part of the law is that when a mom gives up her baby for adoption now, first she has to list the baby on the family record. And a lot of people do not want to do that because then you can see that it's an unwed mom with a child. That is only removed from the family record if the baby's adopted. And as we notice, adoption's gone way down. So the chance of that being removed from a mother's record is very small. And so that really discourages moms from going through the proper channels for adoption. And so there has actually been a huge increase in the number of children that were abandoned. We're not talking an office, we're talking a subway station or a sidewalk. In Seoul, you'll notice, this is in 2010, there were 21 kids who were abandoned, 7 of them were adopted, and I just want to note, I forgot to mention, this does not include special needs children. These are not children with special needs. That's a whole other category. The number of babies that are abandoned or left is much larger. This is just children who do not have special needs. In 2011, there were 31 kids abandoned. And then in 2012, after the law changed, from January to July, there were 28 children abandoned. Then the law went into effect, an additional 41 children were abandoned in the same year. That's a total of 69 children. So 31 and 11, 69 after the law. So the government is actually going to amend that law, or attempting to amend that law this year, so that when mothers register their kids, that record does not have to be in the family registry. And the hope is that that will encourage moms not to just abandon them. The government's also providing financial assistance for adoptive families, and the Ministry of Health and Welfare is requiring agencies to attempt to find a home for the kids in Korea before they are given up for adoption internationally. So, I want to talk a little bit about what you can do. And I want to note, I hate speaking in public. I don't know if you can tell. I absolutely hate speaking in public. But I very much love these kids. I've been here for 3 years. I see what a huge difference a family makes. And I strongly feel that every child born in Korea deserves a chance to grow up and to be loved and to have opportunity. And, you know, Korea has had many achievements. Several decades ago, Korea was a third world country. That's not the case anymore. Economically, politically, Korea has made so many advancements. And I think Korea should be absolutely proud of those advancements. But I think the next step is making sure that no Korean gets left behind. You know, whether you have a family, whether you're an orphan, you know, every child deserves to be loved and to have a home and a chance to go to school, to college, to have that support system. It's really difficult for kids in Korea who have been institutionalized to go to college if they don't have parents. When they leave, they have about $4,000 US that they leave with. Tuition can be $2,000 or $3,000 in a semester. So if you want to go to school, often, and this is all over Korea, you have to work go to school full time, and find a place to live alone. There's actually a subculture in Gwangju. I've met these kids. I've been to the police station. I have talked to these kids. There's a bunch of kids who are orphaned, who are abandoned, who live together in downtown. I've been to their apartment. They're teenagers. They do not have families. They don't know how to get good jobs. They don't know how to make their lives better. And so they've ended up getting in a lot of trouble with the law. They have no guidance, no safety net, no one to fall back on. And yeah, I just think every child deserves a chance to have a bright future. And yeah, so here's what you can do. You can consider your personal attitudes towards adoptions and orphans, whether you're a foreigner or whether you're a Korean. This is not just a Korean problem, this is a problem worldwide in many countries, including the United States. You can talk. A lot of times people don't know what's going on. They don't know situations about orphans and institutions around Korea. Talk to your friends, talk to your coworkers. The more informed we are, the more educated we are, the more we can make a difference. Also find ways to create opportunities in your local community. You can reach out to a local institution financially or volunteer. The institution I work with is trying to raise money so that these kids can have a lower staff-child ratio. And if anybody's interested in helping out with that, I would love to talk to you afterwards. I can also give you a business card if you have any questions, or even if you would like me to send you any of the information. I have research articles, newspaper articles. I'd be more than happy to provide any of that. You can also buy cupcakes. Who does not like chocolate? If you have a craving for something sweet, you can satisfy your craving and actually support a local business. And yeah, I just thank you for the opportunity to talk.